The Rock Run raises money to help homeless pets. The extreme games soar into high gear. And we find a hidden jewel at the Lawrence Airport. These stories and more as we explore Neshoba Valley Winery on this edition of Coast to Coast. Hi, welcome to Coast to Coast, Media One's program that brings you across the country to visit interesting places and meet fascinating people. I'm Jennifer Babine.
And I'm Bill McColgan. Well, this is an interesting place. It's the Neshoba Valley Winery right here in Bolton, Massachusetts. Now, when you think of fine wines, you probably think about France or Italy or the great domestic wines of Napa Valley, California. But you should be interested to know that they make great wine right here in the heart of New England all through the autumn months.
That's right. Here at Neshoba Valley Winery, you can experience winemaking while enjoying the beautiful scenery of fall foliage in New England. And here at this orchard oasis, they're making their wines out of all kinds of fruit, not just grapes.
That's right. We're going to find out all about that process. We're also going to walk around the orchards and pick some of our own fruit. And we're going to find out about a new thing here at Neshoba Valley Winery. They're brewing their own beer starting this year. Well, right now, Jennifer has made her way up to the picnic grounds where she's sitting alongside Richard Pelletier, the owner-operator of Neshoba Valley Winery. Jennifer?
That's right, Bill. I'm here with Richard Pelletier, and he owns everything we're going to be looking at today. So, Richard, tell me, when did you buy the orchard, and what changes have you made since you came here?
We acquired the orchard in October of 1995, and basically what we've done is done a lot of additions and improved the orchard, really trying to promote the theme of agro-tourism, where we get people out here doing different activities. Today, as you saw, we have a bunch of young children out that are doing cider pressing. They go out in the orchard, they get to pick their apples, bring it up to our cider mill, and press their own apple juice. And that, along with festivals and corporate outings, and we're hoping to do a restaurant next year. The whole thing is just to try to get people to appreciate what we have here.
So what things can people expect to do here? What activities can they participate in when they come and visit the Neshoba Valley Winery?
Well, what we do is we obviously do winery tours, and they get to taste about 20 different varieties of wines that we make out here. And I think they're all.
What's your favorite?
Mine's dry pear, but I think when people generally think in terms of fruit wines, they tend to hedge a little bit towards the sweeter wines. The dry pear is actually very similar to a grape Chardonnay wine. It's done with barrel aging and everything. So they get to go through a winery tour, which is really kind of a different, unique experience for the Massachusetts area. In addition to that, they get to pick apples. We grow wonderful peaches, plums, raspberries, blackberries, pears. Next year we'll have strawberries, so they can come out and actually pick their own fruit right off the tree. Picnic, as you see, we have some beautiful picnic grounds also.
Richard, why did you decide to buy the orchard? What prepares you for something like that?
I don't think there's any preparation. We actually came here looking to buy the house to live in, and ended up falling in love with the concept of the winery and the orchard, and ended up turning out that we don't live here now. And so it was a complete reversal. And I don't think there's any preparation for getting in the wine business like anything else. I think you get in there and you swim as fast as you can and hope that your head stays above water. But it's been a lot of fun. We work with some great people here, and as more and more people come out to the winery, especially the kids during different festivals and everything, it really is a lot of fun to see. And I have a couple of young children myself, and they come out and
Must be heaven for them.
They think that Dad has a party every weekend up here, so it's a lot of fun.
Tell me about the festivals that you do have here. When are they, and what do you do?
We do roughly 5 different festivals a year. They start off in June, where we usually do some sort of apple blossom festival. But the primary one is a Taste of Massachusetts, which is usually a charity-based event where we bring in a bunch of local chefs and they prepare foods, and we pair them with the wines, and that's a real good event for adults. But probably the most successful event we do is the Harvest Festival, and that's at the beginning of September, and it's to celebrate the oncoming of picking of all the fruits and everything. And we bring out, this year we had the Magic Rainbow Band, which is a kid-based band, and we had probably no less than 1,000 young children out here dancing around, and we had face painting and hay rides, and a whole bunch of things that
fun
really
for the whole family.
Exactly, it really is a family environment, and we're trying to build it as that.
Well, thank you, Richard, for spending some time with us today.
Thanks.
Now let's take a break from beautiful Bolton and head out to the busy streets of Boston, where some tough guys with tender hearts got together for the annual rock run at the Hard Rock Cafe.
The 5th annual rock run to benefit the MSPCA shelter in Methuen rolled into Boston this past August as these bikers got together to help the animals.
The firefighters group that likes to support different causes, you know, keeping up with the tradition of firefighting, but we try to help people, and we certainly help pets as well.
The bikers rode all the way from Methuen into the Hard Rock Cafe in Boston, where we spoke to some of the organizers of this event.
Well, this is the third time the Hard Rock has been involved with the MSPCA bike run. 3 years ago, started off a little ride of 300 people. Last year, we got in over 1,000. I think we topped that this year with over 1,200 riders. And you can see that the riders are having a great time. They bring lots of people down to the Back Bay area. And the Hard Rock and the bikers are a great fit. If you look in our window, we got our big old Harley Davidson sitting there. And just a great fit for the Hard Rock. We raise some money for charity. We have a great time. That's what the Hard Rock's all about.
Everybody was so great. Everybody that helped to pull the event together, whether it was staff, volunteers, all the riders, the staff here at the Hard Rock, the police, everybody was wonderful. I am delighted with how everything went. And I'll probably be even more delighted when we finish counting up all the money.
We started with six people. On a Sunday, I called 8 friends, 6 showed up, and we came to Boston. And after it started growing year by year, we had such a good time that when I said, well, let's do it again next year. They did, you know, and It just started growing. It went from 6 to 12 to 25 to 50 to 100 to 200. Yeah. So it's just been growing. Then we started doing it for charity. Every year I learned something new about doing this. You know, I go year by year because every year I learn what was not done right the year before, and this year we changed a few things. We met in the parking lot and collected the money coming in instead of leaving. And it kept the bikers together more. Plus with the police escort, that was an excellent job. The police did a fabulous job for us. There were a couple of guys that, you're always going to run into people that want to get ahead of the group, but basically everybody was excellent in what they did.
And Boston radio station WZLX was on hand to promote the event.
A great day for riding, a rider's index of about a 9, no accidents I heard, and about 1,500 or more riders. We're here to support the MSPCA and all the good things they do for the little critters, so to speak, and we're all for it.
And so the riders say goodbye to Boston until next year when it's time to come together once again for the animals.
Bill is now learning all about winemaking from Neshoba Valley's head winemaker, Larry Ames. Bill, just how do you turn an apple into wine?
Well, I'm sure I don't know, Jen, but I'm pretty sure that the man standing next to me does know. This is Larry Ames, who is the head winemaker at Neshoba Valley. And Larry, tell me a little bit about the process. How do you turn an apple into wine?
It's not a whole lot different than turning grapes into wine, except that some of the equipment that we use for processing the fruit's a little bit different because the apples and peaches and pears and the fruit that we use is physically a lot different than grapes. But once we've crushed it and pressed it, which is the basic white wine process, till we've got a juice, we then ferment it using one of a number of types of yeast, varieties of yeast, which we've selected for that wine. It ferments for a couple weeks, maybe a month or so, depending on the type of wine and the temperature. And then it's aged in either these stainless steel tanks or wooden barrels until we determine it's ready to bottle. And there's no hard and fast rules as to when that is. We actually have to come in and taste the wine occasionally and then determine when it's ready.
That's the best part of the job.
And I reserve that part for myself, actually. With the red wines, like the blueberry wine, it follows a similar course, except that the wines are fermented in contact with the skin and then pressed after they're fermented, because a lot of the color comes from the skin of the fruit. Much like you can make a white wine from Zinfandel grapes, which are a red grape, for instance. There is no white Zinfandel grape, but you press red grapes before they ferment and you get a white wine. So if we want a lot of color in the wine, we do a pulp fermentation, and then the alcohol will extract color and flavor from the skins. And as I said, then those would also age either in the barrels or the tanks. When we've determined it's ready to bottle, we do final adjustments, filter the wine, bottle it, and ta-da.
You're pressing wine today.
Today we're grinding up, you can hear the grinder in the background, so we're grinding up apples and pressing. This is actually going to be for our hard cider. We have a couple different hard ciders, and this one is a particularly interesting batch. It's a mixture of French and English cider apples, which aren't grown in this country very much. They don't taste, it's not kind of apple you go grab off a tree and pick and eat, because you'd spit it out very quickly. They're very bitter or tart, and they're usually very small. But they're the kind that are traditionally made for making hard cider in England and Brittany. And we have a number of varieties of those, and we've also mixed in some of our antique apple varieties into that mix to make what we call our New English cider, which is a lower alcohol. It's technically a wine, but it's lower alcohol than the apple wine, and it's also carbonated, so we call it a hard cider.
I see. Now, what is it about the New England ground that really makes it perfect for this kind of fruit winemaking?
Well, the reason it's perfect for orchards is that it wasn't much good for anything else. It was so hilly and rocky that the farmers, as soon as they discovered the flatter, deep topsoils in the Midwest, said, the hell with New England, we're going out here. And orcharding was very adaptable to this type of topography. There are also a lot of minerals in the soils. The trees have to reach a little deeper to get their nutrients, so they bring up a little more interesting stuff. Also, the combination of, like this time of year, the cold nights and the warm days gets the apples to color up nicely. So you won't see Macintosh grown in many other parts of the country because they don't get the nice color that they do in New England. But as far as, as far as the reason there's not much of other kind of farming, it's like by default, the orcharding.
Well, I'm really looking forward to tasting some of these wines. If you took the tour, you'd actually go through this area into the next room. Let's take a look.
All right.
Well, we've entered the tasting area. Here's a lineup of some of the fine wines here at Neshoba Valley. Larry, what can folks who take the tour really expect at this portion of the tour?
Well, we end up each tour with a tasting, and we have our wines cover a wide variety of styles and flavors and sweetness levels. We've ranging from the very dry, like our Baldwin, which is an antique variety of apple that was developed right in Wilmington, Massachusetts. And this is a real popular one, particularly this time of year, is the Sizer, which I've poured for us already. And instead of adding sugar during the fermentation, I add honey. So it gives a little bit of a flowery nose to it. You can almost smell the honeycomb in there. There's a little touch of sweetness.
Oh, it's wonderful.
And we also have dry table wines made from pears, blueberries, and a couple sweet dessert wines like the raspberry and the after-dinner peach.
Well, Larry, this is terrific. We want to thank you for your time here. And right now we're going to swing on out to San Diego, where we're going to take an interesting kid's eye view of the extreme games. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Joe Christensen. Get ready to kick some asphalt because I'm here at the X Games in San Diego. The X Games are the Olympics of extreme sports, and with events such as sky surfing, street luge, and barefoot jumping, extreme is an appropriate name. Ron Semio, who came up with the idea for the X Games, says the concept was well received from the very start.
And when I put it all together and took it to Steve Bornstein, who's the president of ESPN, he embraced the idea right off the bat. And it's really, his support initially is what allowed this project to go forward. And now what you have is a collective effort of everyone at ESPN.
And ESPN's effort in San Diego resulted in 37 hours of original programming produced by a staff in the thousands. Perhaps the shining moment of this coverage came when Tony Hawk scored a 97.5 out of a possible 100 points on the skateboard vert ramp. Jack Edwards, who called the event for ESPN, tried to put Hawk's run in perspective.
Well, I was lucky enough not to see Michael Jordan's 63-point game against the Celtics, but his 56-point game. I was at Fenway Park when Roger Clemens struck out 20 Seattle Mariners in April of 1986, and I was in the third row of the Hagler-Hearns fight in 1985, which might have been 3 of the best rounds of boxing in history, or 2+ anyway. And what Tony Hawk did in the vert ramp ranks right there with my all-time sports thrills. I can't say which was greater or which was the best, but to see somebody creating at that level and executing in front of a crowd which was perfectly aware of what was going on. Everybody knew that they were seeing something really, really special. And to hear Tony Hawk, who's been in a vert ramp hundreds of thousands of times, to say that he never in his life has skated better, it made it an extraordinary moment for me.
In all, more than 450 athletes competed in 27 events spread over 11 alternative sports. I spoke with 2 New England athletes who took part in the bicycle stunt vert competition.
The best thing about the X Games, it's kind of a lot of commotion. There's a lot of things going on. There's a few aspects about it I'm not really into. But I mean, as far as my sport goes, I'm kind of all for it. My sport's growing. I mean, we're getting a lot more money to go out there and kill ourselves. And I mean, pretty much I guess the best thing is riding with so many people at once. You never really get to ride with this many people, especially where I grew up back in New Hampshire.
Is it hard to compete against the people from Florida and California who get to practice all year round?
It's pretty tough practice. I usually have to, I have a ramp that I ride outside, and in the wintertime there's a small place in Boston, but it really doesn't suit my practice needs, so I'm in the process now of opening a skate park in Coventry, Rhode Island. So hopefully by the end of July that'll be open, have a full facility all winter.
And speaking of winter, ESPN even found a way to make it snow on the beach so they could add a snowboarding competition to the Summer X Games. Jack Weiner, executive director of the games, tells us how they made it happen.
Well, the way it came about is first thing we did was build about a 90-foot high snowboard ramp, big air jump that's 8 feet higher off a 50-foot level. The runout's about 200 feet on it, and we started off Thursday with liquid nitrogen and water, spraying the water in front of the in those tents you see over behind you, and tried to make some snow. But we found in the last 36 hours that the process would not work fast enough, and so last night at 1 o'clock in the morning we hauled 4 truckloads of 300-pound, 4 semi-truckloads of block ice in here, hoisted a chipper up on top of it, and sprayed the heck out of it.
Now, how do the athletes feel about this?
I think the athletes, the word they use to me is they're stoked.
One of those stoked athletes was Salt Lake City's Tina Dixon, who boarded away with the gold medal in the women's competition.
It was a lot of fun. It was good. Yesterday was kind of sketchy if they were even going to get the snow on the ramp, but I guess they got it all together this morning and it worked out. So I'm on some ramp and I'm looking down at the ocean and there's people in boats watching us. I mean, that's, you know, that it's a wooden ramp and man-made and it's not a mountain. But it was exciting. It was fun.
Did you ever have any doubts that this would happen?
Yesterday when I came in for practice and there wasn't any snow on the ramp, yeah. Then I was, if they could actually get snow in San Diego, but I was excited if it all worked out, so it was fun.
I think it was really awesome to have snow in the middle of San Diego, so it was a pretty cool event. I liked it.
How different is it from being up in a mountain like in Colorado or somewhere else?
It's kind of just like a spring day in Southern California. The snow, that's what it felt like. It was kind of slushy, so it was fun.
From the X Games in San Diego, I'm Joe Christensen reporting for Media One.
Welcome back to the Neshoba Valley Winery, and thanks for that bit of extreme reporting there, Joey. Well, we've talked a lot about the fruit wines made here at Neshoba Valley, but one of the innovations that Richard Pelletier has brought in as the owner of Neshoba Valley Winery is making beer here. Jen is standing by right now with Richard. And Jen, are they using some of these great fruits in the beers as well?
Well, Bill, I'm not sure, but Richard has joined me again here, and we are now in the brewery, and I'm sure he can answer your question. So, Richard, is there fruit in your beer?
Absolutely. We do a bunch of different varieties of beer here. Primarily, we started off with a Blue Heron Ale, which is named after a blue heron that actually, for some reason, nests around our pond area. So we thought for years about naming a wine after him, but he actually got the first beer named after him.
And what kind of fruit do you use in that beer?
That one actually is a straight ale, so that one doesn't have fruit in it. And then we do a straight lager also, and we'll do it in the Oktoberfest, which actually has some spices that we grow in our spice garden in it. But other than that, we do a cranberry lambic that we're doing, and that's actually a good takeoff on for us because the cranberry apple wine is traditionally what Neshoba became known for around the Thanksgiving holiday season. And so with this year's holiday season, if you're not quite into the wines, maybe you can jump on a cranberry.
You've got beer as an option.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do you grow all of your own ingredients here at the vineyard?
Actually, we don't grow all of it. We use as much as possible from our own orchard, and about 95% of the fruit that is used in the beer and the winemaking process comes from Massachusetts or from within about a 10-mile radius. So even the blueberries now we're buying from western Massachusetts. The Chardonnay grapes that we used this year actually came from Apponeganset down in Dartmouth, Massachusetts. So we really try as much as possible to support the local growers in Massachusetts and use their product whenever we can. And I think we do a pretty good job by getting our percentage up to around 95%.
So Richard, which is your favorite beer?
Well, actually, it's the Blue Heron Ale, and this is actually the first beer that we did here at Neshoba. It's most likely fashioned after a English Pale Ale, a little hoppier, a little bit on the Indian Pale Ale side, but it's nice, it's golden brown, and it's really attractive towards almost a lot of taste buds.
Well, just like the beer's namesake, the Blue Heron, let's fly on out of here over to Lawrence, Massachusetts and check out their mechanical birds.
While getting the tour of the special planes that call the Lawrence Municipal Airport home, we came across a very storied visitor, the Memphis Belle. Yes, the Memphis Belle of the movie fame. While the actual Belle was shot down in World War II, her pieces were gathered and put back together. She's currently in a museum in Memphis, Tennessee. This plane is the Memphis Belle that carried Harry Connick Jr. and Eric Stoltz home safely after a harrowing final mission over Germany. And after being inside one of these B-17s, I can honestly say that the plane looks a lot more comfortable to fly in the movie than it does in real life. And let me tell you, if you're a fan of aviation and you get the opportunity, you should certainly come down to the Lawrence Municipal Airport, because not only for the 1997 Lawrence Air Show are there some special planes, but there are special planes here at the airport all the time. From the Memphis Belle, for Coast to Coast, I'm Chris Wells.
Welcome back to the Neshoba Valley Winery here in beautiful Bolton, Massachusetts. Well, Bill has made his way down to the orchard where he's talking with orchard manager Dennis Wagner. Bill, tell me, what is it about this New England climate that makes it so great for growing tasty apples?
Well, Jen, this certainly is the man to answer that question. Dennis, what is it about New England that makes it so perfect for growing these kinds of fruits?
Well, there's plenty of moisture in New England, but also the cool nights especially help to turn the apples red. They bring on the red color in the apples. Our West Coast growers talk about how difficult it is to get red delicious apples to turn red, and we joke that we can color up a red delicious apple under a blanket.
How many different types of fruits do you grow right here in the Neshoba Valley?
I guess we have about 7 or 8 different types of fruits, but we have over 100 varieties of apples.
Really? Now, when you say varieties, I mean, how much does that have to do with the flavor of a wine, these different varieties of apples?
Well, that's partly why we have so many different varieties. We've planted so many different varieties. Many of them are antique or English or French cider apples, and we've been planting them to test them for winemaking potential.
Yeah. How do you decide what you're going to grow?
A lot of reading. A lot of the old-time varieties especially have a history of use in cider, and the old-time cider is kind of a hard cider, not the refined product that we have today. But it has alcohol in it, it's left to ferment over the winter, and that's what the colonists had drank or consumed during the winter.
Obviously, you're pretty knowledgeable about this subject. How'd you get into this as a profession, Dennis?
That's a long story. I had just traveled up to Boston to visit a friend and fell in love with the area and ended up looking for work up in this area. I had studied horticulture and had been a tree surgeon in New Jersey for quite a few years, and just was looking for a change in in pace as well as in my career.
Well, obviously, this is kind of a fun place to work. I mean, people who come here are here having a great time. That's got to be a little bit satisfying that you guys are all a part of this.
It's very satisfying, especially when you walk around the orchard, this time of the year especially, and look at the trees and see all the fruit, the fruits of your labor, the fruits of your hard work, just hanging right there on the tree and looking so beautiful.
Well, the fruits of your labor have been evident to us this entire visit. This is just a beautiful place, Dennis. Thanks for inviting us, and thanks for taking some time out of your busy day to talk to us.
Well, that about does it for this edition of Coast to Coast. We'd like to thank all the folks here at Neshoba Valley Winery for their gracious hospitality.
That's right. The folks here have been just terrific, more than accommodating even. You know, if you find yourself in the vicinity of Bolton, Massachusetts, you really owe it to yourself to pay a visit to this great winery.
We'd like to thank all the folks that contributed video segments to this month's Coast to Coast, and a special thanks to you, our viewer, for once again tuning in.
Take care, everybody, and tune in again next month for another edition of Coast to Coast.
Cheers.
Dear Mrs. Coleman, you don't know me, but I know you know my old red house at the end of the lane. Please forgive me for tracking you down, but I had to thank you. I'm not sure what inspired your kindness. Oh, it's a godsend. Since my wretched hip surgery, just getting to the end of the lane and back takes nearly half an hour, and sometimes the pain just isn't worth it. You brought me something much more important than newspapers. You brought me the understanding that it's the small, the simple things that really help people.
If you're doing just a little, you're helping a lot. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
For millions of cats across America, this is the end of the line. Every year, as a result of overpopulation, up to 10 million cats die in the U.S., destroyed in shelters or killed in the streets. Most cats born today won't ever find a home or people to care for them. They'll end up as victims of abuse, disease, starvation, and road accidents. But with Friends of Animals' low-cost spay-neuter program, you can do something about this tragedy. By getting your pets spayed or neutered, you'll be showing your love. You can ensure that fewer animals suffer miserable lives. Find out more about our low-cost spay-neuter program. It's more than just a good idea. It's a matter of life and death.
work. How about you? I told my mom I was coming here with you guys. Uh-huh. Me too. Someone's outside.
Lawrence? Alexander?
Are you coming, Jason? No, I told my mom I'd be home at 6. Homework, huh? Yeah.
You can never go wrong when you do what is right from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.